Hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all. I am late, but I am here, y'all. I am here. Let me get my stuff together here. Let me see if I get all my stuff up. Hey y'all. I know this is about forgiveness, but please forgive me. Let's practice. Let's practice. Please forgive me for my tardiness. I'm getting my life together here. So bear with me. Let me grab my water. How y'all doing? Hey Kiki. Hi Shaphonia. How are you? Like I said, please forgive me. I'm a little tardy today. But I am here and I'm excited to talk through forgiveness, even though this is not the easiest topic. But I am ready to go. One more thing here. Listen, I have been working plus school stuff, plus other stuff I got going on with meditation stuff. So bear with me. But yeah, I have 6 affirmations for us tonight to talk about forgiveness. I'm gonna give us some key points first. Just a second here. I'm taking my braids down. Listen, it's been a day. Listen, so y'all gonna get a hat today, all right? Because that's where I'm at in life. And y'all just gonna get this mid-black girl take stuff down day, okay? So we good though. So how's everybody today? I hope you're all well. Drop in the comments, say hey. This is a very interactive live. Tonight we're going to be talking about forgiveness. I always share affirmations. Hey Hiru, welcome in, welcome in. I always share affirmations. We have 6 affirmations tonight. And I'm going to give us some points on each one. Let me make sure I post that. Okay, so I'm gonna give us some points on each one. But before that, I wanna give like a precursor for forgiveness. There's just a few points. I know that we all know what forgiveness is. I know that we all know that we technically are supposed to forgive, but I wanna talk about like the misconceptions of forgiveness and what's in it for us. Like, a lot of times people don't understand that forgiveness is for you, not for the other person. And giving someone grace and giving someone that release of control over how you're feeling is what's most important versus the, oh, I'm condoning what that other person did. And I think that we get that convoluted a little bit, where we feel like if we forgive someone that just means that we're condoning that what they did and that we're giving them a pass. And that's not necessarily the case. So a few points that I want us to remember when talking about forgiveness. So forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation, right? It doesn't require for us to reconcile with the person. It doesn't require for us to be best friends or be in that person's life even. It just requires us to let go. So point number 1, remember that forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. Number two, forgiveness doesn't require an apology. You don't have to have an apology to forgive someone. Now, does that sound a little hard to digest? Yes, it does. It is a little bit hard to digest. But yes, it doesn't necessarily require an apology. What if there's someone that you have to forgive that's passed away? Or what if there's someone that you have to forgive that you don't have any contact information for, or you have no communication with them at all? You don't know where they are. So there isn't, what do you do in those instances, right? So there doesn't necessarily have to be an apology. It doesn't even, the next point is forgiveness doesn't require a conversation. Sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes you can go through that process of forgiveness where if the person has passed away, or if the person is, you don't even know who the person is, because there is a situation where you may have to forgive someone that you don't even know, whether it be a parent, right? So like if you or never met your father or never met your mother, but you still have to go through the process of forgiveness, but you don't even know who that person is, you never met that person, but you still have those emotions and you still have those feelings, right? So forgiveness doesn't necessarily have to require an apology or a conversation. And then the last point, or the second to last point, forgiveness requires an internal release of control. That's what unforgiveness is. It's control. It's a matter of trying to control a particular situation or trying to control our feelings, whereas we have to do the opposite to let go and release that control. So forgiveness requires an internal release of control. And in the process of forgiving others, it takes time, but you also need to make sure to forgive yourself. Because a lot of times the unforgiveness is linked to something that we haven't forgiven ourselves for, whether it be us trusting someone that we shouldn't have trusted, or we felt that we shouldn't have trusted. We have to forgive ourselves for ignoring red flags. We have to ignore ourselves for the denial or the shame or the avoidance or the guilt that's associated with that situation. We have to forgive ourselves for being desperate or being in a desperate situation. So there's so much that goes into forgiving others. And a lot of times we have a hard time forgiving others because we can't forgive ourselves in the situation. So understanding those points are things that we probably don't think about on the surface when it comes to forgiving other people. So just keep those things in mind as we go through these affirmations. So I hope these points are helpful. If you have any questions about forgiveness, please drop it in the chat. If you haven't liked or subscribed, why not? Please do that now. Go ahead and do that now. And we're going to go ahead and dive into the affirmations. When it comes to the affirmations, make sure to use them however you wish to. Feel free to write them down, put them on sticky notes, put them in your journal, recite them, change the language if you want to. Do whatever you want with them. This is just information, a skeleton that you can use. And however you feel that it works best for you, go ahead and use it in that way. If this is your first time, my name is Debbie. I'm a certified meditation coach and mindfulness coach. Also a therapist student. So I'm in graduate school, y'all, so bear with me. But that's what qualifies me to have this conversation. So feel free to ask any questions, and I'm going to dive into the 6 affirmations we have for tonight. Let me just make sure that I have, I do have 6. Sorry, y'all, it refreshed, so I have to scroll all the way down my 42-page document of affirmations. Okay, so affirmation number 1. I release myself from the weight of anger and choose forgiveness. I release myself from the weight of anger and choose forgiveness. I'm going to say that one more time. I release myself from the weight of anger and choose forgiveness. Forgiveness is a choice. It's not a feeling, it's not an emotion, it's a choice, right? You will rarely feel the urge to forgive someone. It's not an easy, an easy thing to process, especially if you feel wrong and you feel that wrongness is being valid. And a lot of times too, we got to understand that that anger that we feel when it comes to these situations can a lot of times be perception versus reality. So when we feel that anger, it's always a good point to take a step back and really evaluate the situation. And if there's any validity there, of course, that anger is valid. But a lot of times we're quick to anger, we're quick to be offended, and sometimes that becomes a detriment to our own, it causes our own demise. So understanding that forgiveness is a choice, and you have to release that anger in order for you to get to a place to actually want to forgive someone or to go through the process of forgiveness. So that was, I release myself from the weight of anger and choose forgiveness. Now, I definitely want to handle this conversation with care, because we have so many levels of situations and traumas that we've dealt with in our lives. So I never want anyone to take these affirmations or take this conversation as a dismissal of what someone has done to you. By any means, a lot of us has been hurt, have been just talked about and betrayed and had things done to them that are just feel unforgivable. I understand that. And I'm one of them people that is like, listen, I don't know if I can forgive this one. Like, this is not it. You know what I'm saying? I get it. So don't think that this conversation or these affirmations are at any way dismissing your feelings or dismissing what was done to you. This is more so of just bringing into perspective of different ways that we can think about forgiveness and the way that we forgive. Again, like I said at the top of the live, like, it's going to take time. And it's not necessarily something that you're going to be able to be like, oh, I forgive. It's nothing or whatever. That's not the type of forgiveness I'm talking about. I'm talking about an internal release of control of a particular situation or issue. Okay, so just want to make sure I give that tidbit. So number one, thank you, Kiki, for putting that in the comments. I release myself from the weight of anger and choose forgiveness. Number two, forgiveness sets me free from the past and opens my heart to the now. Forgiveness sets me free from the past and opens my heart to the now. I'll say that one last time. Forgiveness sets me free from the past and opens my heart to the now. Do you have to do clinical hours for your program? I'm willing to speak with you to help you get your hours. Not yet. So I thank you, Nick. I appreciate you. As of right now, I'm not at that point yet. That will probably be mid next year. But yes, my email is in the comments. Feel free to email me. I would love that. I'm looking for mentors. I've been collecting mentors like infinity stones. Okay. So, so yes, I would be open to that. And thank you for putting that in the comments, Kiki. Forgiveness sets me free from the past and opens my heart to the now. Forgiveness allows you to be present. Right? It allows you to take the time to be present and in the present moment. Unforgiveness keeps you in the past. It keeps you in a cycle. It keeps you in the instant replay of what happened. It keeps you in a space of torment. if that's the right word, because that's what unforgiveness feels like to me sometimes. It feels like I am mentally being tormented by a particular person or a situation, and it's not a fun cycle to be in. And in the initially, it's weirdly or oddly feels good to be in that unforgiveness state. Like, I'm not going to forgive them. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to seek revenge. I'm going to talk about them. I'm going to complain about them. But then over time, it becomes a burden, and it becomes a cycle of these like crazy emotions and feelings. And a lot of times we're experiencing these secondary emotions because of the fact that we have unforgiveness in our heart. So with unforgiveness in our heart, that creates the cycle of emotions or secondary emotions of sadness and shame and guilt and depression and all of these things. And we walk around and we're wondering, like, why am I feeling so heavy? Why am I feeling so sad? Or why am I feeling so frustrated? Or why am I easily irritable or frustrated? And a lot of times it's linked to us storing unforgiveness in our heart. So understanding that forgiveness will set you free from your past and allows you to be present in the current moment. It allows you and gives you the space to say, this is where I am now. This is what I want in the future. It allows you to free up that space in your mind for the things that matter. So keep that in mind as far as like forgiveness, because it does allow you to be more present with what's currently happening. That was number 2. Number 3, I forgive others because I am deserving of emotional freedom and peace. I forgive others because I am deserving of emotional freedom and peace. I'll say it a third time. I forgive others because I am deserving of emotional freedom and peace. Understanding that forgiving others and gaining that emotional freedom and peace, we deserve that. We deserve emotional freedom. We deserve peace. We all, it's our birthright. It's something that we deserve. So not forgiving, not releasing keeps you, like I was saying with number 2, it will keep you in that cycle. It doesn't, which doesn't allow you to be present, and it doesn't allow you to experience emotional freedom. It doesn't allow you to experience peace. It doesn't allow you to experience contentment, because you're on that constant wheel of, I can't forgive that person. I'm not going to forgive that person. That's what you're consistently feeling. Anytime that person's name is mentioned, it's like Mufasa, right? Don't say that name in my presence. Scar was like, he was really resentful. Like, nah, don't even say that dude's name. You know what I'm saying? So like understanding like that is not a great place to be in. And granted, when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about myself. I have people in my life, whether it be in the workplace or just, friendships or whatever, that I'm like, I really don't want to forgive this person. This person has done this, and this. This person isn't safe emotionally. This person doesn't care about my well-being. They don't care about me in general. So why would I forgive them? And I even had to tell myself, like, hey, this is something that you're going to have to do, because otherwise this person is going to continue to have control over you. Every time they come into your space, you're going to have an issue. Your heart rate's going to go up. You're going to get flustered. You're going to start sweating. I don't need nobody to have control over me like that. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't want no one to have control over my emotions by just their presence. Just them being in the room, that has that much of a reaction, or gives me that much a reaction. I don't want anybody to have any control over me. So that's what I have to think about when it comes to what I deserve in my relationships. So I am deserving of that emotional freedom and peace. We deserve it. Understand that you deserve that. In order to get there, forgiveness has to happen. We deserve, reduction in stress, because that's what forgiving does. It also provides a better emotional well-being. It boosts our self-esteem, our emotional control. improves relationships or current relationships, reduces depression, promotes mental clarity, because a lot of times we can't even think because we're so frustrated and angry by the unforgiveness. It increases emotional resilience as well as encourages our personal growth. Um, let's see. What is the, let's see here. What is the therapy perspective on loving people from a distance? I feel like I can't have a longer than 3-minute conversation with one of my loved ones because of what they've done. Have you heard about, I don't know what that word is. But to answer your question, as far as the when it comes to people, like loving people from a distance, I think the biggest thing that you have to understand is that that's okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to set a boundary with people if it's something that is a continuous detriment to your well-being. So I think the first thing that you have to understand with situations like that is that it's okay to have or create that distance between you and another person, even if it's family. It's okay to remove yourself from a particular relationship, even if it's in within a period of time, whether it be a platonic or a friendship or a relationship with a family member. So that way you're both able to gain perspective of the situation and potentially come back later and rebuild a relationship. But understanding that creating that distance is okay. I think sometimes we wrestle with it because we feel a level of guilt by creating that distance. And because we have that guilt, we feel obligated to try to make it work when it's just not going to work in that moment. It may work later. Maybe if there's growth that happens on both sides, and then you guys kind of come circle back to each other, and then you can have a more, a better relationship. But we can't force relationships, just like we can't force, romantic relationships. And that's something that we talk about all the time. We can't force those platonic friendships. We can't force those family dynamics and relationships. We can't force it, So if it gets to a point where it's detrimental to your well-being and it's, a matter of, in that moment, it's too much, it's too overwhelming to continue a relationship with that person, there's nothing wrong with creating and setting a boundary. And then once you set the boundary, tell yourself and remind yourself that it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. So let me see here. People don't talk to each other anymore. Asking for forgiveness or even trying to make plans has become very difficult. Yeah. They behave nicely, but I can't, so the relationship doesn't grow. That feels like unforgiveness, but I still help them from a distance, like sending groceries. That's fine. I surrender everything to Jesus. It's made a world of difference in my life. We can't force it. Yes, 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 and yes, yes. When it comes to, what if it's a parent? I feel like it's the same when it comes to parents. And when it comes to the parent and child relationship, understanding that when you're in that space with them, especially as an adult, sometimes we go back into our child cocoon and we respond to situations as if we're still 6 or 5 years old. So a lot of times we have to understand and take the time to think about, well, I'm an adult. I deserve respect. The dynamic of the relationship has changed when it comes to a parent. So I have to accept that within myself in order for me to actually go in and set boundaries. Because what are we taught when we're younger is that we just do what our parents say. There isn't really any pushback that we can give. We can't ask any questions. We can't do any of that. But as an adult, that's changed. So I think a lot of times it's hard for us to set boundaries with a parent like that because we still see ourselves as that 6, 5, 4-year-old versus it being I'm a 20-year-old something, adult where I can set boundaries even when it's with my parent. Can't deal with narcissists or hoarders. It's just too draining for me. I feel you. I feel you. I mean, when it comes to narcissism, that's a whole nother life. But when it comes to people who are narcissists, I feel like your boundary setting has to be specific when it comes to how you handle them. If you have a narcissist in your life that you don't necessarily have to deal with, I would just remove myself completely. To be honest, I have in the past. But if you have like a narcissist that's your family member, or if you have a narcissist that is in a workplace that you can't avoid, you have to equip yourself to handle them. I have a narcissist in the workplace right now. Covert, full blown. I ain't graduate yet, so I can't technically diagnose, but full blown covert narcissist. Full blown. And I have to take into consideration, like, okay, is this something that I want to remove myself completely from the job itself, and am I going to allow this person to actually remove me from something that I actually enjoy? Or am I going to find a way to set a boundary so that way I can continue to do my job, they can continue to do their job, and I can coexist with that person? So you have to weigh your options when it comes to dealing with narcissists. And I don't know, and I don't know whether this is a thing, but I feel like hoarding is like, it's a trauma response, but I feel like there is some narcissism in that when it comes to hoarding, because it's a matter of just in watching some of, like, I watched Hoarders in the past, y'all. So just in watching some of the episodes, a lot of the things that the hoarder says sounds a lot like narcissists, things that a narcissist would say. There's a sense of entitlement. There's a sense of, there's a sense of it. It's just very weird. I would have to dig into hoarding a little bit more, but there seems like there's a sense of entitlement, at least from the ones that I've saw, a sense of entitlement, a lack of empathy of the people that live in the home, a lack of empathy and compassion to the people that are trying to help. Like there's a weird dynamic there. But yeah, so definitely you have to set boundaries, even if it's a family member, even if it's a parent, even if you feel like it's going to hurt their feelings. Like you have to. Otherwise, you're going to suffer emotionally. And if you're suffering emotionally, what kind of well-being do you have navigating through life? I mean, definitely choose your battles, pick your battles, right? But there's nothing wrong with setting boundaries with a family member. Neither one shows any remorse or empathy or compassion towards people. It's all about them and the hell with your own feelings. Yes. And those are people that you have to set boundaries with or remove them from your life. That's really all you can do. I do know someone that has a narcissist mother, and even though she does still communicates with her now, there was a period of time where she didn't speak to her for months, almost a year or so, because she just had to separate herself. And sometimes you have to separate yourself to heal. It's a lot. It's a lot to digest when it comes to dealing with people who have those types of personality disorders, and you need a break, and that's okay. Just remind yourself that that's okay. Okay, that's number 3, right? Yeah, that was number 3. Number 4, I release the burden of resentment and permit myself to let go of past trauma. I release the burden of resentment. I permit myself to let go of past trauma. I'll say that one more time. I release the burden of resentment and permit myself to let go of past trauma. Unforgiveness is a burden on the mind, heart, and the spirit. Point blank, period. They are just exhausting to be around. They just try to drain all of your energy and take advantage of you. Yes, yes, it's definitely exhausting. And it's definitely, you with it being exhausting, depending on the relationship, the exhaustion can continue, because it's like they just keep doing stuff, they keep saying things, they keep adding to it. So it's hard sometimes in those moments, it's hard to forgive, because those people are still doing things that are adding to things that you have to forgive, right? So yes, it's definitely exhausting. Storing unforgiveness is also exhausting. That's also tiring. So it's like you have to kind of pick your tired, pick your hard, as far as what you're willing to accept, what you're not willing to accept, but what is having the most impact on you. And just because you are going through this exhaustion with the narcissist, storing that unforgiveness is also just as exhausting. It adds to the exhaustion. So believe me, like I said, I've encountered many narcissists in my life. So it's definitely not an easy thing to do. But going through the process of letting it go will only help you in the long run, because unforgiveness and trauma stored in the body turns into disease. It turns into so many different things. So you have to release those things. You have to. That was number 4, right? Unforgiveness. Unforgiveness is a burden on your mind, heart, and spirit. It's hard to stay mad and angry. Like it's hard to just stay. Sometimes you ever find yourself like forcing yourself to be mad at someone, or forcing yourself to like stay in the state of, nope, I'm going to be mad. Nope, I'm going to be mad. And it's basically your way of revenge. Sometimes we use unforgiveness as a form of revenge because of the fact that we can't do something else. So that's the part of the revenge, to the point where it's even killing us. Actually, let me plug my phone in before it does. So understanding that that unforgiveness and that
finally, girl, I was thirsty.
That understanding that forgiveness and resentment is a burden, and it's a burden that we're going to carry until we let it go. So we have to release it. We have to let it go, or otherwise we're just going to keep piling on that burden until it weighs us down. And then again, like I said earlier, then we wonder why we're always sad, or why we're always depressed, or why we're always finding ourselves in these really with these very difficult emotions that we're always trying to process, and we're trying to release. And a lot of times it's just linked to unforgiveness. So that was number 4. Number 5, I let go of grudges and embrace understanding and compassion. I let go of grudges and embrace understanding and compassion. I'll say that one more time. I let go of grudges and embrace understanding and compassion. Thank you, Kiki. Thank you. So I let go of grudges and embrace understanding and compassion. So just understanding and taking the time to take that understanding of hurt people. Sometimes hurt people break people. I know we talk about hurt people, but sometimes hurt people break people. Just break people down until it makes them feel good. And a lot of times, sometimes people can only give you what they have. They can only give you what they got. And a lot of people ain't got much. Okay? When it comes to emotions, when it comes to love, when it comes to compassion, when it comes to empathy, when it comes to care. And so we have to take the time to sometimes to understand that, they only gave me what they had at the time. I use that a lot when it comes to people processing forgiveness for their parents. Sometimes the people have kids young. Sometimes people weren't parented the best, and all they have is what they experienced, and they end up passing that down to their child, and that's really all they have. It's hard to love someone when you never have been loved or never have felt love. It's hard to be understanding to someone when you have felt like you've gone through life and haven't been understood. It's hard to give someone grace when you felt that you have never received grace throughout your life, right? So it's this affirmation is just to take the time to remember that hurt people hurt people, hurt people break people, and that we can only give what we have. And if we don't have a lot, then what do we have left to give? If I have $5 and you need $10, what am I supposed to do? All I'm going to be able to do is just give you the 5, or I may just give you the $1 because like I'm trying to hold on to the rest of the $4 that I have. So just think about that when it comes to compassion or love. If you need $10 worth of compassion, but the person that you're working with, or the person that you're in relationship with only has $5 worth of compassion, they may only give you that $4 or that $2 worth of compassion, which isn't enough for you, and that's okay. That's okay that's what you need. You need that $10 compassion, and that's okay that they only have $5 worth of compassion, and they're rationing it out as much as they can, right? So just taking into consideration that we can only give what we have, and if they don't have a lot, then we can't put expectations on them to give that, right? Now, granted, does it make what they said or did right? No. It doesn't. It doesn't make it right. It still hurts. It still is frustrating. It's still not the best situation to be in, but it just gives perspective and a space to where you're able to process forgiveness easier. I had a conversation with someone that I did a meditation and journaling class. It was a group. And we talked about forgiveness, and he came up to me afterwards and he said, I want to thank you because I've been trying to build this relationship with my father. My father has actually always been in my life, but he's never really been like actually present in my life as far as like emotional support and all of these things. And he said that brought a lot of perspective. And I explained to him, I said, has your dad ever like verbally told you that he loved you, right? And he said no. He was like, but I said, but you felt the love, right? Because of what he did or what. He was like, yeah, I felt love because he took care of me. He showed up at all my games. He did all of these things. But he never verbally said that he loved me. And I said, now just think about the fact that he never said that he loved you, but you still felt the love, right? So he gave you what he could give, and what he gave you was providing, because that's what he saw, right? So all he knew was, you show love or you give love by providing, and you give love by showing up to things, and you give that's how he thinks of love. And so, he never said that he loved you. Yes, he never had those conversations that you were hoping for. Yes, he never, gave you that additional attention and support. Is that necessarily right? No, but he gave you what he had, So he gave me an update a couple of weeks later, and he said, yeah, we actually went to church together. It was nice. Like, we were actually able to have a conversation. And he's like, I just want to thank you. But it's just sometimes that small perspective when it comes to relationships is helpful to go through the process of forgiveness. And again, like I said at the top of the call, doesn't mean that it has to be a reconciliation. With this situation, they reconciled, but it doesn't mean that it has to be that. It's just a matter of shifting your mindset so that way you can release it, right? This is all about you. This is all about you being able to release a situation versus it being about the other person. Yeah, do they receive some grace? Yeah, but God gonna deal with them, right? God gonna get his vengeance for you on them, right? At this point, it's more so about you releasing, so that way you can go on with your life. That person comes into your space and you're not all flustered and frustrated and sweating and mad, and now your whole day messed up. Like, we don't want that in our lives. That's not a way to live. So that was a long drawn out explanation. I'm sorry, y'all, I'll be babbling. um but I hope that's helpful, and I hope that gives some insight as to why this is important. Letting go of grudges, letting go of all of those things, and embracing understanding, compassion, and trying to find understanding, trying to find compassion. And sometimes the understanding is, man, okay, so next time I'm not going to ignore that red flag. That could be the understanding, right? It doesn't have to be a long drawn out explanation of what they were feeling or whatever. It could just be like, hey, that red flag I ignored. I'll take the hit for that. But now when I see it again, now I know how to change. It's all about figuring out how to change. I have asked my parents to go to counseling. It hasn't happened yet. Understood. Thank you for explaining. Sometimes these people make you feel like you're the crazy one. Yes, that's what a narcissist is going to do. That's what gaslighting is. They make you feel like that you're insane. You walk away and you're like, okay, well, did I say that or did I do that? Yeah, it's all a trick. It's all a trick of the enemy. And when it comes to like asking parents to go to counseling, I've had someone ask me this in one of my classes, and there's several ways that you can do it. And I think the best answer for that is by being an example to them as far as counseling, because again, it goes back to giving what they have, right? So depending on the age of your parent, depending on how they grew up and their background, and they may want to talk about like their past experience with counseling or not, but you don't know what type of experiences that they have with counseling. I know that depending on their age, there's a lot of people that have bad connotations because they were doing trials on people, they were doing all of these things. So I would say, not even asking would they go to counseling, maybe asking about their experience with counseling, their thoughts behind counseling, and get an idea of their preconceived notions when it comes to counseling, because that may bring a perspective or understanding that you may not necessarily know. The other thing is by setting the example, by you going to counseling and then coming back and say, hey, like, by the way, I went to counseling. It was very helpful. We talked about not necessarily specific things that you talked about, but concepts. So like saying, oh my gosh, like I realized that I have like anxiety, and that this is what anxiety is. Like one thing that I talked about with my mom, like she's in her 70s. These terms of anxiety or overthinking or like these different terms, a lot of them she didn't know. She's like, I don't even know what that means. Like, what do you mean when you're anxious? Or what does it mean when, like, what is depression actually, like, what does that actually feel like? Like a lot of times, depending on their age, they may just not know, or they may just have their own preconceived notion based off of the time that they grew up, especially when it comes to ethnicity and nationality and backgrounds. If your background is African American, Hispanic, if you come from a religious background, you got to think of all of those things, because that may be why they don't want to go into counseling, right? So it's about one thing is just understanding what their thoughts are on counseling. Don't even ask them. Just say, hey, like, what do you think about counseling? Like, what do you think, like, what comes to mind when you think about counseling? Or you can mention like, hey, I went to counseling, and be prepared for what their answer is. Because they may give you an answer that you're not expecting or that you don't like. So just understand that and know that going into it. But say I went to counseling and it was, it was very helpful. Like, what are your thoughts on counseling, or what do you think about counseling? And just see what they say. Just see what they say. They may have something that you can combat in the moment, not necessarily in a harsh way, but just like, no, well, no, that's not necessarily what it is. It's like, it's this. Because a lot of times people think counseling is advice. It's not. It's more so of a third party taking in what you're going through and asking you the right questions to come to your own conclusion. So counseling isn't about just giving advice, but it's about just giving you the space to think through what you're going through and to come up to with your conclusions on your own with guided clinical support. And then that, the advice that the therapist may provide or counselor may provide will be like tips or on how to cope with what you're dealing with, or to help you figure out different perspectives. But it's not, a lot of times people just don't want to go into it because they have these ideals of what it is, and a lot of times it's wrong. So I would say start with not necessarily asking them to go to counseling, but asking them what their ideas are of counseling. And if they give you an answer that you're not quite sure about, or if they give you an answer that isn't the greatest answer, or you don't know how to combat it or how to come back for it, take it into counseling and say, hey, I really want to get my parents to go to counseling. This is their preconceived notions. What are your thoughts on that? So I hope that helps in answering your question. It's a little long-winded, but yeah, that's where I would start. Okay, awesome. That was what number were we on, y'all? That was number 5. I let go of grudges and embrace understanding and compassion. Number 6, and the last one, I release the need to hold on to past hurts and embrace a future of understanding. I release the need to hold on to past hurts and embrace a future of understanding. I'll say that one more time. I release the need to hold on to past hurts and embrace the future of understanding. So this is just to remind us to go through the process of letting things go. Going through the process of not condoning. I'm not saying condoning what someone did to you. Not saying that. I'm saying going through the process of releasing and letting it go. Because the longer you hold on to it, the longer you stay in a shackle. I always think of unforgiveness as like a shackle, right? And depending on how many things that you have unforgiveness in your heart for, it just keeps you in an emotional prison. And the more that you take the time to release these things that are past hurts that you're dealing with, the more time that you're intentional about it. It's not about, oh, I release it, I let it go, I'm good. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being intentional, whether it be journaling it out, whether it be finding or gaining new perspective or understanding, whether it be going to counseling and talking it through with a therapist, whether it be, seeking reconciliation if it is someone that you want to reconcile with. A lot of times, if it's someone that you want to reconcile with, a lot of times it's misunderstandings or miscommunications or people making assumptions, or there's so many different reasons as to why, and sometimes it just takes a conversation for you to be able to let it go and release it. Again, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be easy. Some things are going to be easier to forgive than others. Some things are going to feel like it's just unforgivable. I get it. Like, I've been there, believe me. But it's definitely something that's necessary in order for you to experience the well-being, a high emotional well-being. Now, granted, I'm going to be very honest. When it comes to forgiveness, there were some things that I couldn't forgive until I accepted Jesus Christ as my personal Savior. I'm going to be very honest, because there are situations where I was just like, I'm not going to be able to forgive this on my own, So I will say that. But when it comes to forgiveness, it is something that is necessary to bring yourself peace and contentment. Otherwise, it's going to continue to eat away at you. And I don't want to go to bed with something eating and gnawing on me. Okay? I'm going to let it go. I'm going to release it and go to sleep and sleep like a baby. All right? So that was I released the need to hold on to past hurts and embrace a future of understanding. I'll go back to the top just to read through all of them in case anyone missed them. Number one was I released myself from the weight of anger and choose forgiveness. Number two, forgiveness set me free from the past and opens my heart to the now. Number three, I forgive others because I am deserving of emotional freedom and peace. Number four, I release the burden of resentment and permit myself to let go of past trauma. Number five, I let go of grudges and embrace understanding and compassion. And number six, I release the need to hold on to past hurts and embrace a future of understanding. I hope that this was helpful. You're welcome, Nick. You're welcome, Motor Oil. And awesome. So this live is every Monday. Oh, thank you, Hero. I really appreciate you. You always show up. You and Kiki are always here. Shaphonia was on here too earlier. It's just maybe like the third time I seen her. Thank you so much for joining and watching. This live is this live is every Monday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We talk about different topics in regards to just our emotional well-being, and I give affirmations. So definitely come back and join us. Make sure to like the live. I am going to go through and record a forgiveness. We do have a few forgiveness meditations already. So I have to go through what we already have and then record a new forgiveness. Maybe I'll just use the affirmations. But definitely come back and join us every Monday. If you haven't seen my book is called Nah Self, Let Me Be Great. It's an inspiration and workbook. Do I have it? Let me make sure. Yes, I do. Okay, so it's an inspiration and workbook. You can get it on Amazon. The link is down below. It is a inspiration workbook. It talks about my journey with self-doubt. And then in there, it has affirmations and a workbook associated with it. So definitely check that out. I haven't shared this in a while, but it's still for sale, y'all. Table of contents talks about, there's a whole chapter on forgiveness. So chapter one is stop doubting yourself. 2 is reflect on your past self. 3 is get to know yourself. 4 is be real with yourself. It's yourself. I don't know why I'm talking like I'm at work. It's be real with yourself. Number 5 is forgive yourself. Accept yourself, love on yourself, and trust yourself. So definitely check it out. There's this one is the actual inspiration and workbook. There is another one on there that is an empty journal, and that will just say journal on it. So just make sure you get the one that you want. I hope this is helpful. Y'all have a great rest of your evening. The name of the book is called Nah Self, Let Me Be Great. And it's on Amazon. So if you type in like Nah Self on Amazon, it will pop up. And then just make sure if you want the journal, make sure you get the journal. It will say journal on there. If you want the actual workbook with my story, then you get this one. I hope that this was helpful, y'all. I will talk to y'all next week. I'll probably put up a poll for next week's topic. And if I don't talk to y'all or see y'all in the comments throughout the week from the other video, y'all have a happy 4th. Talk to y'all later. Bye.